Ready when you are.
Okay, I want to talk about Ebo, the Battle of Ebo today, that happened on the 23rd November 1975. Cover a bit of a run-up to this battle, not so much the operational run-up, but the planning or lack thereof that went in before it. And I am going to mention names now. In this interview, I'm probably going to get a bit agitated uh, because of things I feel very, very strongly about. Uh, Also, in discussing Ebo, I am not discounting or subtracting or detracting from any other soldier's role that fought in Angola during Savannah. It is just that I know this example because I was part thereof. I logically spend more time researching that and reading up on that than on other battles or other fights. There were very brave men at other places as well, like Papa Troop that fought at Bridge 14 under Ben Grip, Stefan Fourie, the Gibson brothers, and various others. They did a sterling job in the December following the November in question. There is Orange, Battle Group Orange, that had some serious fight. There is Zulu. Uh, so I'm not mentioning them because I wasn't involved with them. I do not have a personal recollection, a personal perception, and the same focal point. So I'm not saying Ebo was the outstanding one. What I'm actually saying, it was a turning point in the war because we got hammered. And I'm going to concentrate on two things. The one is the deeds of valor that saw the light by the fighting men on the ground, the total and absolute lack of leadership, uh, the fact that we got hammered and had some serious loss of life on the day through no fault of the fighting men, but the total lack of planning that was with this whole situation, or basically the main point for the loss on the day. And then also the warped history that got put forward by the commanding officers to make themselves look good and to address their lack of leadership, actually to correct it in the history books. So in saying that, I'm saying that the historians have all got it wrong because they were fed little bits of information, and they only did interviews with the commanding officers who were trying to hide their weaknesses. Now you'll find me coming back to this point the whole time for a couple of reasons. The one is that we were treated very, very badly, never informed, and afterwards, even worse. But then they expected us to have respect for these very same commanding officers later on in life. They betrayed us. They made us lose faith in the leadership of the SADF. In some instances, they made us lose faith in God. Some of the guys are totally anti any authority, including that. And you cannot blame the men, because we kept the code of honor, silence, silently hoping that somebody up there will have a pair of big enough balls to address this wrong. And we were 39 years after the fact, we're still proven wrong, and we're still getting rejected over and over. I'll draw two parallels. The one is what the officially available research said happened on the day, and the other one is what really happened. So if there's not clarity between the two, just point it out and I will try to say this is the real one. This is what the previous record said. Okay, the battle started early in the morning, or the advance started. Hannes Swanepoel's troop. Now I'm just going to make it simple and just mention the troop leader or the crew commander. Of course there's a crew of 3 involved, or a group of 12 involved. They led the advance. It's a misnomer to call it the Battle of Ebo because it didn't happen at Ebo, the town itself. A couple of days prior to that, there was also a massive contact in the town of Ebo. And then this Cuban Fapla detachment withdrew and went into new ambush positions at under correction, it's either Masaba or Mabasa River. Now it's agricultural land, and the river is, it's not really a river, but it's a little spruitjie or ditch. But it's got very steep banks. It's a definite obstacle in terms of warfare. It was raining heavily, so you could not go off the road in any place. You got stuck. So they chose well. There was high ground all around in the form of granite hills, which immediately forced you into a defile, bunching you together. So they could pick the primary def acre, the secondary def acre. They could pick that very well. They utilized the weapons at their disposal very, very well. First of all, direct anti-tank, then indirect weapon. Small arms fire was hidden on the riverbanks, no more than 20 meters away from the car. So the car got shot out and the guy jumped out. He got taken out by small arms fire. But okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Johan Hannes Swanepoel's troop led. And at that stage, when they passed into these little hills, there was a warning shot that went off on one of the copies. I believe it was an RPG. We had a spotter in the air as well, and the spotter reported trucks on the ground, but what he didn't see was the personnel. So we immediately knew there was enemy. The logical thing to have done, if you were a commander on the ground in the day, is to immediately reappreciate, because the terrain told you, we knew you driving into serious trouble. That didn't happen. No speculative fire was allowed, where you try and draw out the enemy to fire back. Our mortars were not deployed to try and clear the defile first before the guys went in. Nope. First of all, Hannes Swanepoel's troop then deployed tactically and immediately got stuck. So we, as the second in command car, drove forward and we branched off to the right to basically, nobody trusted the bridge over the river. We knew there's going to be fire. It's going into a certain depth. So just before it, we branched off to the north to recce for a crossing point, another crossing point, which we didn't find. In the process, we got stuck in a ploughed land, and my crew commander, Jacobo Kriel, had to jump out with a spade and dig us out, and told me to monitor the net. We were in sight of the enemy the whole time. Our only saving grace at that stage, as sitting ducks, were the immense fire control that they had on the ground. I mean, under normal circumstances, we would have been dead ducks. Then I heard over the air that Swanepoel got instructed, not Swanepoel, Johan. He got tasked to move forward, Johan de Tooy and his troop. He was the leading car. Then it was Piet van Alleweer. Then it was Gert Botha. I'm just talking crew commanders. And then it was Kees van der Linde. And Johan de Tooy reported back. He said, we at the bridge. And the next moment, all hell broke loose. We just got out of the mud. All hell broke loose. There were 3 or 4 shots in very quick succession, and you could hear it was 76 shot. And one of those guys in the group just screamed, please come and help us. So Bok asked me and Flappy Ludwig, our driver, he said, I cannot give you an order to go in. Are we going to help them or not? And we said, okay, we'll do so on our own accord. And while we were charging in, also into the defecker, they started firing with the 122 millimeter BM21 or Grad P, which is quite a terrifying, as well as with mortars and with small arms. And the whole time, of course, anti-tank. We charged in, we got hit. I must have been on target. I didn't see it. I believe I saw the flash because we got hit on the muzzle brake. It burned through the muzzle brake, and because it was a heat ground, and burned down the barrel and still made serious spot marks on the mantlet. Bok was still standing out, so that explosion was half a meter below him. The second shot, because there was a second shot and also a third, maybe up to 5, took off the anti-aircraft Browning. Again a near miss, and the belt that was tumbling out of the Browning hit him over his head. He had a serious gash over the top of his head, which made him fall into the car and over the breech block. At that stage, our coaxial Browning machine gun was already empty. He could not reload that. He was stunned for a couple of seconds. I don't think he will recall that because he probably had a bit of too hard a knock on the head. But when he came to, he's, "Why aren't you fucking firing?" And I just, went like this, and he had a look out and he said, "Oh shit." But we were level. We actually went past Kees van der Linde's car. So we were in the Def Acre, the third car from the front, when we got hit. So we accepted, we did. And we accepted the fact. We were kind of comfortable with it. Then Floppy Ludwig said, "Wait, I'll get us out of this. I'll definitely get us out of this." And he started reversing. And between the driver and Bok, they still had the presence of mind to turn our flank, because we were then the primary target. Believe me, it's ping, ping, ping in the car and just bangs going off. And we turned our flank because Kees van der Linde was at the back trying to clear his petrol filters in a heavy contact. I mean, that guy was so full of shrapnel, it's just not true. So we were trying to draw the fire away from him. At that stage, it was chaos. John Baal's troop leader, Aubrey Klute, jumped out of his car, ran back. Some of the cars that got stuck in the mud got hit by direct hits from 122 millimeter fire. It was total chaos. There was no command and control. The commanding officer on the ground was already dead. He got decorated for controlling the rescue effort. How can you coordinate and control a rescue effort if you already got a piece of shrapnel this size through your head? Less said about that, the better. We actually operated on our own the day without any orders given, this, that. It was just underling cooperation. With our car being unserviceable, Bok jumped into the car that got vacated by Albert Klute. Actually, a lot of us do not like the person, never did, and that was just a proving point, because he left his crew in the Def Acre of the ambush, saying he's going back to fetch more ammo, and the car hadn't fired a shot at him. Later on, they found him sitting in a small little town close to Eber, crying, saying they're all dead. But Bok saw this and he jumped into that car, and he went back in. And he managed to rescue Gert Botha. At that stage, Kees van der Linde's car started again and he started reversing out. So there were 3 cars. Unbeknown to us, Owen Kevin Albright was tasked by Kees van der Linde to jump out because everything was disintegrating about them, and he took cover in a ditch. And when there was a building next to this, and when this disintegrated, Kees van der Linde thought, okay, his gunner is dead. So he just reversed out him and his driver, and they left Albright there. Albright, and he was picked up later by another car. I can't remember who the crew was. But then Bok went in with Aubrey Klute's car and his crew, and they rescued Gert Botha. John Wahl, who was then our recruiter's troop sergeant, already established a firing position. Even when we went in, he was already in the position. And when the 76 took us out the first time, and they were reloading, he took out the crew with his 94. He actually had to keep on taking it out because they were remanning it. I mean, all you shoot away is the humans, not the weapon. And they were remanning it over and over again. So he just kept on taking out 76 after 76. When Bok came out with Gert Botha, John Wahl and them left their position and went in the first time and picked up the driver. I think the driver was Jaco Kotze. Then a funny thing happened. 122 millimeter. The guys were actually out of their cars, standing, and 122 millimeter fell. And it was a Corporal Taljard and Bok got winded the second time in the back of his neck. Taljard was dead on the spot. Large piece of shrapnel hitting in the artery. So it was almost instantaneous. And you've got to remember at this stage, all our infantry was non-existent. Our mortars got taken out immediately when they started firing. Our artillery was deployed wrong, too close to the high ground, so the angle they had to fire, they fired so far over the enemy that no forward observation post could give corrections because they couldn't even see where the rounds were falling. So there was no corrections at all. The pilot in the air tried to give corrections. I think there was somebody with him, artillery as well. But he became airsick. So it's just this comedy of errors the whole day. But it's not errors. It's lack of planning. It's lack of leadership. Now, I've explained very briefly what happened on the ground in Ebo. Now, the official records state that George Kruis was on the ground. Now, I would swear by anything that's holy, during the beginning of the battle, Kruis was not on the ground. I am almost certain that he was never on the ground, but he maintains that he was on the ground. Why would the senior officer be on the ground if he took our squadron commander and placed him behind the battle to be a relay station when he put the infantry captain on the ground to be the battle commander on the day in armored car? So in this process, a lot of guys got decorated. Some were very brave men. Others we question, because others claim that they did the rescues that I know for a full fact Bok did, John Wahl did, not Lieutenant Albert, and that's on record. I'm going to leave it at that, but the next day, Kruis was fuming, saying we lost the war, and basically shut us out, or we lost the battle. Not for one moment doing a bit of introspection and saying, maybe it was due to lack of planning. Maybe it's due that we didn't follow any tactical rules or norms or doctrine. We just sent this bunch of kids into their death. Because he got the order from 2 military sub-area that he must push on. There's a hurry to push on. Him as commander should have said, I cannot. My men are going to die. The day before, the enemy aircraft flew over us, light-wing aircraft, and they knew our exact orbit, which direction we were going. We were already in a Liga. And one of the reasons why I know that no planning took place is Kruis didn't give orders. I was never exposed to orders. Kruis didn't give orders. He had voted Lombard travel from Sela, about 20-30 kilometers away from this little spot, to come and give orders for the armor. Lombard didn't do a tactical appreciation. Kruis didn't do a tactical appreciation. Kruis blames Holland for not reappreciating But his role in the reappreciation process never gets addressed. And these are the officers they wanted us afterwards to have respect for. I think we'll leave it there. I can add on a bit more later. Okay.